My name is Linton Kwesi Johnson. I was born in Jamaica in a rural village called Chapelton in Clarendon, 1952. I attended elementary school in Jamaica and I attended Tulsa Secondary School in this country, and then later on I went to Goldsmiths College, University of London, where I did a degree in sociology. Oh, I've got many occupations. Freelance journalist, broadcaster, recording artist, company director, bit of jack of all trades, master of none. Because I was as a black youth growing up in this country, it was part and parcel of my experience. The experience of racial oppression, the experience of being marginalized, the experience of being persecuted by racist police officers, the experience of being put in low streams in school and not given the same equal opportunity for learning as other kids. Those were the things that motivated me. My sense of injustice as a youngster. Certainly the biggest event in the life of the black communities in this country was the New Cross fire that happened in January 1981, when Yvonne Ruddock was celebrating her 16th birthday at 439 New Cross Road in southeast London, when some racist, some fascists, threw an incendiary device through the window of the house, which resulted in a fire in which 13 young blacks lost their lives and 26 were seriously injured. I think that was the most significant event in the collective life of black people in this country. Well, the Black Panther movement was a black power organization that emerged in this country in the late 60s, early 1970s, and modeled itself on the ideas of the American Black Panther Party. And they were an organization basically who were struggling against racial discrimination, struggling for rights for black people, and struggling against police brutality and murders that were taking place in America. And we were going through similar experiences in this country, and so they started an organization called the Black Panther Movement. And the slogan of the organization was Black Power, People's Power. And basically, it was involved in campaigning for around issues of education, employment, justice in the courts, and against police brutality. I supported the ideas of the Black Panthers, which is basically that you had to organize yourselves to change your situation. You couldn't just sit back and hope that somebody would do something for you. You had to get together with people who were in the same position as you, who were suffering from the same kinds of injustice as you, and have a common cause and do something about it. We achieved a lot because we helped to transform people's consciousness. We helped people become aware of their situation, and that they were not powerless, that they could do something about it, that they could organize themselves, mobilize themselves, protest, agitate, and try and transform their situation. And we help to raise the consciousness of a lot of young people about who they are, and gave them the basis for understanding who they are and why they were where they're at in the world, to locate themselves in the world, basically. Well, like all movements of those kinds, once they've served their purpose, they sort of, they kind of fizzle out. And the Panthers had served its purpose and began to fizzle out. With the shift in politics, in this country, it was no longer simply about color. It became a struggle for class. It became a class struggle. So we became a part of a working class movement instead of a black power movement, and we realized that we had things in common with white working class people, and that we were basically in the same situation, and that we had to join forces and be in solidarity with each other. So we shift from the politics of race to the politics of class. The youth of today are no different from the youth of my generation, really. We had gangs, we had knives, there were stabbings, but I think the significant difference is that we were more politicized. We were more driven by ambition because our parents had come from this country, come to this country in order to seek a better opportunity for themselves. And so we made the most of the opportunities that we had in terms of education and so on. And we were more politicized. We refused to tolerate the things our parents tolerated, although they did so reluctantly because they had to put up with things when they arrived in this country that they wouldn't have tolerated under different circumstances. But they didn't have the freedom to do as much about it as my generation did, because we had no responsibilities. You couldn't simply, if you were a parent, you couldn't simply walk off a job every time you were racially abused. But my generation, we didn't have those considerations, and we rebelled against racial oppression. The second thing, the most significant difference, I think, is that with the gangs and the knives, there was less stabbing incidents when I was a youth. We would, guys would cut other guys, to warn them not to mess with them. You would cut somebody, or very rarely or occasionally you would stab somebody, but you wouldn't. Nowadays, what they do, the youths nowadays, they don't cut, they stab. Secondly, we didn't have the availability of guns that young people now seem to have available to them. In some quarters, I know that to get a gun is one of the easiest things. That wasn't the case when I was a youngster. Thirdly, we weren't living in the same kind of a materialist-driven world. The consumerist ethos that dominates society now wasn't around when I was a youngster, and that consumerist ethos, of the latest Nike, the latest trainers, the latest iPods and so on. They weren't around when I was a youngster. So a lot of this consumerist ethos has been driven by the revolution in new technologies, and so the young people now are growing up in an environment of instant gratification. I must have this and I must have it now kind of mentality, which wasn't around, certainly wasn't around when I was a youngster. But by and large, young people today are not that different from when I was a youth.